folks. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm Diane, and we have Mike and Renee along with us too, the Three Stooges or the Three Amigos, whichever you prefer. Today, we're going to venture into something that I'll bet I would anticipate a lot of you have heard of Padlet and probably even have used Padlet in your classroom in the past. And so what we'd really like to do today, and it's a very singular, once again, a targeted focus is, we're going to look at, with your online platform or with the e-type learning, what types of things can you do that really foster collaboration and get to a deeper level than just kind of like the post-it note feature. So our norms for today, please. And with a small group like this, I would love it if we're going to have some more active participation. I don't know if you folks with children or with your peers have started using Zoom a lot more, probably yes. And just the more that you learn, the more the quicker that you get at muting and unmuting. Mike knows, he chuckles, I'm talking and I'm muted all the while. And he'll say, you need to unmute Diane. And just so we're going to use the chat feature, we're going to use the breakout room to facilitate a lot of our learning today. Mike and Renee will moderate and ask questions at will in the chat section, and then they'll throw them at me. We'll allot a brief session at the end, like 10 minutes or so, for a question and answer. And there will be, as typical, a recorded version that we'll post by tomorrow. If you have not done so, it's really helpful to us because your schools are being fantastic, and it's a win-win for them. That you folks, everyone that's attending, you're getting Act 48 hours as long as we can identify your school district. So that's why we seem like the proverbial broken record with, please go up, rename, and put the name of your school. Like Sherry has WB there next to her name. So, singular learning target this morning, and we'll be working, you'll be doing work with your peers today as well to create a Padlet. I'm going to give you an assignment. But we're going to explore how to use a very basic tool such as Padlet, but how to take it to a much deeper level and to foster the collaboration. I know that Renee did a workshop for us last week about fostering collaboration online. And so I think a lot of us, honestly, are quite familiar with Padlet. Let's see that. How many of you have heard of Padlet or know what Padlet does? Please go to your participant bar and give me a yes or no. I've heard of Padlet, I use it. I think it's something, frankly, that a lot of teachers have used in the past. Good, okay, we have a couple. Oh, we have some no's. Well, then they're in for a treat. Those of you that have used the Padlet that I'm seeing the yeses, you're definitely in for a treat, folks, because it is a tool that really, really is about the simplest to utilize. But we're going to talk about how to use it at a deeper level. But it's very professional looking on top of that. So if you're working with children, or even if you're working with parents, they would be very impressed at your skill set in the use of this. Okay. I'm going to go back and take a look at my participants for a second. And I would like Jessica from Keystone. Would you please unmute and tell us, how have you used Padlet?
I have never used it, but I've heard of it.
Excellent. Okay. And so do you have peers, you're thinking, Jess, that have used it?
Yes, in more of the secondary setting.
Okay. And it's interesting because what we'll find out today is it's applicable even for the wee little ones, particularly if they're accustomed to using a keyboard. How about, so thank you very much. How about, I'm looking for some other. Stacy, my tried and true Riccati. Padlet. What can you tell us about Padlet in a nutshell in 10 seconds or less?
Oh boy. Okay. I've used it extensively. Most recently, I know you talked about that we were going to be using it at a deeper level. So most recently, I used it in a middle school classroom, and I had them self-evaluate using it. So we used, I can't remember what it was called, but they basically rated themselves, and then they rated each other. So they were able to give each other a score, and then they also replied to each other. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, and when we talk about the basics, so we'll take you into a very basic use, and you'll be impressed with that. Like, oh, I see purposes or uses for this. And then we will also be delving into like some written conversations and different types of things that you can implement. And I even threw a math one in here for the day because our math folks sometimes get slighted, and they use the Padlet for that. So I have the working from home. I can tell you one of the deficits of this is the posture or the posture issues by the end of the day. So don't forget, folks, and I know that some of you are different levels working with your children now, but we always want to kind of look on the bright side. So what I'd like to start with as our opener is one new thing that you've tried since your hiatus. And so it could be personal or it could be professional, but please keep it clean. So it's totally up to you. And just to get us warmed up, because you're going to be doing some typing and some work with peers today, in the chat feature of your Zoom, please go ahead and put it in there. And we'll get kind of like a virtual share out that way. So one new thing you've tried since we've been sequestered. I'm being kind and calling it our hiatus here. Types of things are you trying that are different or new for you? And Mike, I multitask slowly, so
Yeah, a lot
Mike
of people
Renee,
are
let's
a
hear
lot of
from you.
people are mentioning Zoom, a couple Google tools like Classroom and Hangouts. A lot of Zoom responses that was something new.
Wow, someone has teaching piano lessons by way of Zoom. That is awesome. So in working with your kids, particularly if you have children online, if you're using Zoom, whatever your platform is you're using, even if it's 30-minute segments that you're working with them, please make sure that we're generating and we're trying to get them involved. We know it's a lot more difficult. So number one step would be, can you see them? And that's like, we're fine today. And we have a group here presently of 29 folks. When it gets to be the hundreds or something, that would definitely be an issue for us. So my bright side would be I'm able now to spend an hour figuring, Mike and Renee will laugh at me, figuring out like how to use the snipping tool. So things that typically when we have kids or you have learners, or in our case, teachers in front of us, things that we don't typically take the time to do. So that's a bright side. There's additional professional learning. So when we talk about Padlet, because we were about a 50-50 mix, it looked like, the use for Padlet in online learning is, first of all, what is it? In a nutshell, they are virtual Post-it notes. So I am a literacy specialist. So particularly in the realm of literacy, we have kids read and annotate. You might use the Post-it notes and ask them, 3 things that stood out for you in the reading, or on a Post-it note, identify vocabulary that's unfamiliar with you or to you as you're reading. And so just think of it as the virtual Post-it notes, I think, is our best segue into this. Why do we use it? For the very essence of why I asked you folks, for instance, oh, there's Stacy's Cutie. That's one of them. For the very reason that I asked you, in other words, it's hard to engage folks. Kids might be fascinated by it, but we know that and I'll be honest, I can get on Zoom calls if it's like a webinar type feature, and I can turn it on and I'm there, but I'm not there. Hopefully we don't have anyone like that today in the group, but when we do believe that we can multitask. So when you're using a tool such as Padlet, we're able to engage the learner and to kind of formatively assess and check what they're getting or not getting as we go. And so that's always a good thing. So Padlet in its initial use is definitely something that we think of as kind of like an add-on. And so I love this quote, if we take a look at it for a second, by Heidi Hayes Jacobs, because when we're talking about integration of technology, it's not that the technology should guide or rule everything. So even when we're working online with any type of learner, we want to, it's not an afterthought. The technology should support what our purpose is. So my purpose today was, we want to talk about how do you foster collaboration and use this tool at a deeper level. So that's very, very important to keep in mind. This might be, for some of my folks, I bet you a lot of you over the years, especially in that classrooms for the future type era, those of us that have been around a while, have heard of the SAMR model for technology integration. And I think this is really, really significant. But I also want to caution you that if you are at the substitution phase, folks, that's absolutely fine. So when we talk about Padlet, or Mike talks about, or Renee did Flipgrid and Kahoot the other day, all of these tools can be used at a substitution level, that it acts as a substitute for what we, so for lecture, you might have a video that you're having the kids listen to and take notes on. But what we're looking for with the more seamless integration of technology is to get them to the redefining, essentially where the kids are able to use the tool. So by the end of our session today, you folks will be creating a Padlet. And granted, it will be a simplified or a rudimentary Padlet, but that way you can see the redefining is the learner using the tool and using it to produce something rather than just consuming. Mike and Renee, do you want, because you're my experts there, do you want to weigh in anything there, or do you think that's adequate enough to move us through? Okay, I see thumbs up, excellent. So when we take a look at the Padlet, and I just did this off the top of my head for the actual tool that you're about to participate with and to use, but with the substitution, students are creating their own Padlet. It is the Post-it notes on a bulletin board. So I might ask you to brainstorm. So you see, and I'll bet you a lot of you have used Padlet in that brainstorming capacity. I think that's where a lot of teachers land. So the Padlet might indicate at the top, it might say, oh, Sherry, your favorite topic, text-dependent analysis. Or maybe for states like close reading. And then you'd ask the kids to join the Padlet and post something that they know about text-dependent analysis. So that's a substitution because it's in lieu of writing it on the board or a discussion. When we get into the augmentation, the students would continue to work on this outside of class. So in other words, they're using the Padlet, which by the way, you'll see in a couple minutes, you can save. So you can download and save these. The modification would be when the students are working in conjunction with each other. So they give one another's posts, they'll look at someone's Padlet or they'll look at their postings and they go ahead and they're weighing in on that. Or in essence, they're having a written conversation. So that's definitely a higher level than just a learner just posting something. And then finally, the redefinition, where students would use the feedback to improve their work. So it leads into a very, very performance-based, like a project-based type mindset. So I don't want to delay much longer because you're kind of like, okay, if I've never seen this, let me see it, and then we'll go back to it. So how does Padlet work? And I love this game, Scrabble. So it's simple. It is up, and when I say it's simple, I'm not a Michael Renee, it is simple. So when you go to create, if you want to do it now, that's fine, because I'm going to jump away for a second here. But Padlet.com is where we go. There were a couple things I wanted to talk about, and then we're going to, I'm going to switch screens and we're going to go over to that. Joining is very simple. And in my research for this, because I do enjoy this tool, we found out a couple little things. And I said to Mike and Renee yesterday, it's kind of sleazy, but Padlet, the version that I had was completely free. And I must be really old school. I've been using it for quite a few years because it was free and there was not a limit on the number of Padlets that you can create. So when we go into this, and there's a workaround, a simple workaround, but when you join and you go to the dashboard now, it will only house 3 with the free version. So they're looking for you to upgrade. And so the truth of the matter is there's no need to upgrade unless you're saying, I want to have in my gallery, like we'll show you in a second, the collection of every Padlet you've ever created. You can easily go ahead and download these and then save them if you want to save it in that respect. Does that make sense? So whereas Zoom and a lot of these places are like, oh, this is amazing, we're going to help schools, so we're sharing out a lot of different things. What I did find, I'm not going to judge them, but what I did find was that's kind of like folks that are kind of hooked on these when all of this tragedy, all of this virus is done, are going to be more inclined, if they've been working with something, to continue to work with it. So I'm going to share screen again in a second here.
Diane, while you're doing that, Jessica has a question. She says, is this something that you really need to be face-to-face to introduce to students?
No. And Jessica, you guys weigh in, because now I have to try to multitasking. You know how that is with this old brain. It's dangerous. But when you're doing this, the introduction, Jessica, on the teacher side, we're taking you back in through the teacher side, but what the kids see, you're going to see here in a couple minutes. And what the children see, it is so simple in nature that it's not even funny. Mike or Renee, do you want to expand that any further?
The links are very simple, and I'm just putting in the chat. You can just put the links to the Padlets right in Google Classroom or Class Dojo, or even Remind, whatever system you use to get information to your students. It's really very easy to use.
And Stacy has a good point. She deletes her old ones to stay free. So she's always free.
So, and I'm sure you guys will say, Diane, just do this, but I have Padlet up and it won't let me share it, and I practiced it and it let me share it previously. In other words, the actual site. So I have my dashboard in front of me, Mike and Renee, and when I'm going to share my screen, I'm not seeing that anywhere. Oh, hold on. In other words, in my toggling.
So you're unable to share right now.
And I was previously. I was no problem.
Well, that's interesting. Let me.
Yeah. So if not, can one of you pull up Padlet? It will let me. It will let me, no problem. Now teachers are like, I'll never use this. If Diane's struggling with it, why would I want to use it?
Let me try something. What happens if I
look? It will let me pull up my Padlet, no problem.
All right, if I'm sharing now.
Okay.
So let me stop. Let's see if this will be a little
Excellent.
smelling salt, and then see if you can take control again.
Okay. Because folks, they're so much more savvy. I practiced this about 10 times last evening so that it wouldn't happen. But so what we're trying to do is I want to take you directly into the Padlet site with the dashboard. And I know that the sharing function is fine because I pulled up my screen I had and there's no problem. So let me try this. Mike, are you taking control now?
I am not.
Okay, let me see some. Share. No, and it won't permit me. Try one more thing here.
I'm going to promote you to full host instead of co-host and see if that makes a difference.
Okay, let's see.
Hey, there we go.
Now
we have it. Okay.
I think that's what happened, folks. So I went into Padlet.com. So we're not allowed to, so there's a trick. So don't co-host, or in other words, that you have to have the full hosting features. So when we go to Padlet.com, we're landing right on the screen that you're seeing right now, which is Make a Padlet. And for those that are kind of like hesitant, like, oh, I don't know, take a look at the simplicity, but you may start with a blank template. So you have these different features. You have the wall feature, and you guys will have some constructive playtime with this in a bit. You have the canvas feature where they are scattered. I have to tell you that I prefer the wall, but it really depends. What you folks are going to use today, before we leave here, is I'm going to ask you to use the timeline feature, but you can see there's a map feature, back channel. So I'll just pull up one. Here's the map. So you click select, and there is your map. So it does not get much more simplistic in nature. So we all seeing the map? Yes, we're all seeing that now. So first thing you do once you select the template or the actual template that you want to use is you give it a title. So Padlet, you will note they have some real hippie style type headings that they use. So welcome to your beautiful new Padlet, so you can go ahead and name it. So I might want to rename this My World or whatever it is that you want to entitle it. Made with, and they have that made with love, made with made with frustration. Now, you probably want to put that for kids. You probably put something, made with love is nice. Made with whatever it ties into your world or the map. Made with a worldly view. Okay, so that is as simple as, in other words, we're going to go ahead and title it. The icon feature, when you click on icon, and you can really go down a rabbit hole, folks. And so when I started creating these, I did not want to add 55 bells and whistles, but you're going to get time today to explore a lot of these. When you go to the icon, you may select any one of these that you could, oh, here, this looks like me, but minus the buck teeth. So if you go up here to where we have our title in the upper left on the Padlet screen, I have the maker's name or the user's name. So you probably want to be like Mrs. Hubona then at that point, and you could place an icon there. At any point, if there's something that you don't want to use, you have the ability at every turn to go ahead and delete as well. Look at all these different, in other words, when I say you could go down the rabbit hole, it could be days later. So you want to be careful. I know that we like to experiment with things, but you also want to use common sense. Like if you want to get it up and running, that's your focus. So I'm going back to no icon for now, okay? When I want to navigate back to the main screen where we'll keep clicking next, you just go back. So if I wanted to do an icon there, you could do that. Here you see over on the right-hand side of your screen, here is when you have finished the Padlet, you're going to copy this, and we'll show you a couple different ways, but it's making your Padlet to copy to the clipboard. And you can also do a QR code, which you'll see in a couple minutes. The map style, you may select the different types of maps. So there is such a host of choice that I think some folks can get overwhelmed by it. The font, you can select the font that you'd like. These are ones, someone asked about profanity the other day. You can actually, since children, if you're going to have students posting these Post-it notes on the Padlet, you can filter profanity so that you can go ahead and, in other words, it will block that, because I tried it at home to see what it does. It can require approval. They may be giving reactions where they can like the post, they can vote, and I'm going to show you a sample screenshot today of for a fact or fiction, a vote thumbs up or thumbs down. You may give stars, you may actually grade. So there are such a host of features, but in our time today, I want to make sure we're getting through the essentials, like just the basics. So whatever you'd want to toggle there and experiment with it and play with it is absolutely fine. And you can see, folks, it changes in real time over here on the left-hand side then, okay? So you're set, your Padlet's ready to go. So what I didn't do, which I'll go back now, because I'm telling you, I went down the rabbit hole with all those icons, is if I'm going back to here, my description, oh, I'm sorry, what I want them to do with it, or what you want to show on the Padlet, we have to actually say that. So I might entitle that My World. I might say, what do you know about this map? So in other words, that you'd ask folks, or you'd ask the kids, I should say, to go ahead, and when I click start, so it changed in real time there. And the Padlet is ready to go. So it's really lagging here for me too. So there's our Padlet. Hold on, guys. I'm not quick enough to multitask, and I'm just seeing things from Mike or Renee. Okay, that's fine, Mike. Thank you. Sorry. We go ahead, and if you wanted to make it, you can go ahead and remake. We're going to go ahead and share. And so when you go to the share screen, you can add members, which is if you had a small group, you could do that. You can change the privacy setting and make it open for all. If you wanted to share this with kids, the simplest way is to copy the link to the clipboard and send them out the link then. So when we copy the link to the clipboard, it's actually saved. Or you can actually get a QR code. And so those of you that have the scanner or QR reader, like I have one on my phone, I can just hold it up to the screen and go that way, knowing that you have to download it. So there are multiple ways. You can embed in your blog or your website. You could email the link. If you have an email list of kids, oh, look at that. You can email the link to your participants. You can share a Padlet on Facebook. You can share it on Twitter. Or those of us that are the Google Classroom folks, you can share it in your Google Classroom. Okay? The exporting piece, so that's actually sharing, and we're going to do the other side of it as a participant in a second. You can save it as an image. You can save it as a PDF, save it as a CSV, save it as an Excel spreadsheet, or you can go ahead and print it. So the possibilities are endless. I'm not saving this one in particular. Well, it's on my board, but a couple other things I wanted to show you. If we want to modify, you can always, when you see the modify this map, you can always go back to your Padlet and make changes as needed. Now, we've talked about it. That's great. What I'd like to do now is I'd like us to do it from this side, and then we're going to show what this is the wall kind of version and what it would look like. So I'm going to keep this up if possible. I'm going into my chat. I'm going to go ahead and look for, because when you create a Padlet, they also send you an email which states, here you go. So hold on for 1 second, folks. I'm going to, the simplest when working online, not knowing what your kids do or don't have, is I just did this on a class on Saturday. I just embedded the link in the chat. So what I'd like you to do is, this is on the kid end. This is what your kids would have to do. Click on that link in the chat, please, and go ahead and respond. And you're going to see when you go to your Padlet page, I'm going to pull up the back side of that and stop the sharing of this in a second. You will see what it takes, because you click on the little pink circle with in the lower right hand corner, and you should be able to post. Okay, let's get to the chat. Mike, how are they doing? I'm hearing a lot, which tells me they're definitely participating.
Nobody's mentioning anything in the chat, so hopefully they're
okay. And what I'm going to do now
link.
is now
Yep, it looks like things are showing up on the wall now.
I'm going to stop sharing. Well, I'm going to stop sharing to reshare something new. Does that make sense? Oh. And we were going to talk about that next, but I noticed that Mike already embedded his picture.
Sorry.
So students learn best when? Very, very nice. So as the facilitator, I can also tell you, if we had 29 or 30 participants, guess what? If you want your children to weigh in, you do have something as simple or as basic as you could say, please put your initials or put your name and then type your response. I tend to like the brick or the straight graph type options, but you guys, you might like things that are spread out more. I think it's just some of my obsessive compulsiveness coming through, that I like to be able to read things kind of like in the direct lines. So students are learning best, students learn best when, and I see we're still responding, kids are still, or your students are still responding. Very, very nice, folks. So is this how most of you, and continue, make sure you're responding, please. Is this how most of you have typically utilized Padlet? Kind of like, so let me talk as you're posting, let me talk about what makes for a good Padlet if you want them to brainstorm. We don't want something, you definitely want to think very analytically, like with text dependent work. Is it a STEM? The STEM I use, students learn best when, is very open-ended. Padlet, I believe, works much more effectively when you have an open-ended type question, or because when we brainstorm, think about asking children. I was an English, or I am an English teacher, and when I'm asking kids to brainstorm, the worst thing that we can do with that type of brainstorming application is to say, oh, okay, but this is right and this is wrong. So with the students learn best when, the STEM is open-ended. And I do believe, particularly online, you'd want to consider that when using a Padlet online, because we want to gain as a before activity. And this would be a great before activity, but it can also be in the midst of a lesson. And these work, and we're still coming in. So you know, very, very nice. So we have quite a host of input and quite a lot of background that we're getting. And someone that asked about how difficult is it for the kids? Was it Jess or Jen? I forget who it was. From that perspective, how difficult is this for your learners? Go ahead, folks, in the chat bar, go ahead and chat away for a second.
And Diane, one of the issues that everyone seems to be having, although I was able to do it,
okay,
is how to create a second post. So that's why mine says second post. I was able to do it, but they're saying they click the plus sign and they're not able to add a second post.
Yeah, because they should be able, like, it's not limited to. So I don't know if we're overwhelming Padlet at this point with 30.
I noticed that the problem that I had is I thought I was on the Padlet website, but in fact I was looking at Diane's screen, and that's why I couldn't click.
Oh, that could be
Good
it. Yeah,
girl.
make
He had
sure you're in
taken
your
over and I
live
couldn't
window.
do.
Yes. Yeah.
And you know, that's a great point, because this is not like, I put this up to project so you as the learners can see, but the teacher, you could go ahead and have your kids all respond to the Padlet and have it in media array, like in the midst of what they're doing, like I'm doing here. Or you could wait and post that, or go ahead and project that, because you just put it, you just go up to Padlet in present mode. I have to tell you, folks, it's about the simplest. And so that's why I really wanted you to experiment with it in about 10 minutes or so, 10 minutes or less. You're going to work on this on your own. But even I, at this point, by the way, the one thing is that as a facilitator, I'm getting a notice with every Padlet. You can see that's being posted. But you should absolutely, your kids should be able to post multiple postings. And say we had 3 columns here, because we're limited in time, but just start to get the wheels turning. Maybe you wanted to sort things and you had like 3 columns, like good, bad, and ugly. You could then have your kids say with the good, make a posting there, then go over to the bad and say they're talking about things that they see in writing, or the things that might be ugly, so that the possibilities are absolutely limitless. But this is the way I've seen most teachers use Padlet, and rightfully so. It's a great brainstorming tool. It's a great technique to use. I don't want to shut anybody down, but I want to make sure we talk about some other applications. Is there anyone that has yet to share, that has yet to post? Because we understand, we really realize, folks, that there are, in this room alone, that there are folks that are like, what is Zoom? And then there are folks like Stacy, I know, that like you live and breathe this stuff, like she's used Padlets consistently. So you really want to take yourself wherever you're at in your zone of development and move forward. So starting with a brainstorming Padlet is definitely a great idea. Now, I'm going to hover over one, not that, because these are awesome responses. And someone put, who is the show off here? Someone's put in a YouTube, Sesame Street. Look at that. You may put, they may go ahead and edit your post once it's in there. If you could see that on the screen, you could go ahead and delete the post. And when I go over to Mike calls these, what do you call these, Mike, again? These aren't kebabs. Do kebabs go the other way? I would call the little 3 dots ellipses.
Yes.
But when I look at the ellipses, I can change the color of the background of the Padlet, of the post. So it could be one of these colors. You can go and edit the post. You can transfer the post. You can copy, you can expand, or you could delete. Mike, or a couple of you that are really, really great at this, you are embedding video. You can embed when we go to post. I'm double clicking. And so I'm up here in the upper left corner now, folks. I go ahead and give the title isn't necessarily essential here, but I'm going to go ahead and write something. And so that you know, this is to go ahead and upload. If I want to upload, and they have files that you can pick from or items on your computer. This is a good one, especially if you're working with teachers, that you could embed a link. This is, I love this. Go over to my right-hand side and you can go to Google Images, Google Videos, there's GIFs, audio. So all of those can be embedded. So you can go and search what you're looking for. You can also, because I tried out all of these, you can also go ahead and, with your camera, take a picture. And that's, Mike, I'm assuming, is that the way, that's the avenue you pursued? I shouldn't have clicked that starting camera because now it's going to lag on me. And it won't let me get out of it. And there it did. And, oh, I'm sorry. Let me get back over here. And then after the camera, look at this. It's like more, folks. So you can upload, embed links, Google, in other words, the Google sites, or and embed things that way. Take a picture, embed film, voice, so that could be voice thread, screens, draw, place, and put another Padlet. So you could put a Padlet within a Padlet. Mm-hmm. Is there anyone right now that doesn't see an application for this? Even, I'm calling this like at the basic level. You guys did a fantastic job with that, okay? So now let me get back to this, because what I want to make sure that we have adequate time for you folks. So I'm going to next, excuse me for a second, I'm going to scroll through this quickly, and I'm going to take us into a couple applications, and then I want to let you loose for about 10 minutes. So not necessarily question and answer time, but let you experiment and then see if you have questions. So brainstorming on a topic, folks, is what we, let me move my screen around here a bit, is what we're used to seeing. So that's what we just did. So this is if you had the QR code and you want to do that. This was my Padlet link that I copied, that it copied to the clipboard. And as I said, I just copied and pasted and put it right in our chat since we're in Zoom. Very, very effective. A couple real quick things. Parking lots are very good for a Padlet. And a parking lot, if you've never heard of that, or some teachers use an Ask It basket, but you use Padlet as an interactive poster. Students can place questions on there or ask for clarification on a topic, especially when you're in the online version. So we could be using Zoom and have the Padlet running in the background, and so that students can go ahead and post there. That's an effective use. So you know the basics of Padlet, what it looks like. And I put, once again, we will save or share all of this with you, but I came up with, on the fly in about 3 minutes, an exit ticket, formative assessment type questions. What question do you have about what we learned today? And you could go ahead and let the children post on a Padlet. So you could even call it exit ticket, or you can call, as we go back to that last one, the parking lot, and explain to the kids in a couple moments what it is, and then let them loose. You can see that Padlet then doesn't have to be teacher driven. This is one of my favorites I came up with. I like this technique, the 2 truths and a lie, and Renee talked about it in one of her sections. I think it was the engagement session, or fact versus fiction. So you'd have the students work with a pair share partner, and they take a look at the problem that's posted, and then they develop and post 2 truths about the problem and 1 lie. And with Padlet, you have, and I'll show you a sample of that real quickly as well, you have the thumbs up would be like if you're doing fact or fiction, and then the thumbs down. So thumbs up could indicate on the Padlet, which the kids can work, whether this is truth or this is fact, and 1 would be fiction. So what I'd like to do is, here's a math problem. So I'm not going to make you do math. You're kind of already stressed to the hilt already, and it's 11:11. But what would this look like? I would go ahead, and this is literally a problem that I would post for the kids. And you could do it on the Padlet. We send them the link in the chat. Have them go ahead, and with this one in particular, I would be with our Zoom feature. I would putting them with a pair share partner, and I'd have them talk it out, work it out, and then they could put their response on the Padlet. So that's the 2 truths and a lie, and that's digging a lot deeper, folks, than what we're used to. This would be a fact versus fiction, and this is not mine. This I found in the gallery of Padlet. So I thought these were just kind of cute, like alligators thrive in the sewers under New York City. You see the little, if you're taking a look on the screen, there's a thumb up and there's a thumb down, so that you can have your kids respond to the fact versus fiction. And then that's your lead in, and then you continue or you come back with the class discussion. Word walls are a great use for Padlet as well. And if anyone wants assistance with, because I've used Padlet in all of these different capacities. So if anyone's kind of like, you start with this and you think, I want to go down this rabbit hole, that's what Mike and Renee are here for, by all means. But we know that we're doing an hour session, and I want to allot you some time to work on this. A written conversation would be students writing, they go ahead and post something, and then they're responding to their peers. So that would be more like where you'd want them, you'd have 3 headings or 4 headings at the top. With your Padlet, you create the questions and then let the kids respond underneath. You guys actually were doing that without even being asked to do that. And this one I kind of like, especially when I'm thinking for writers or kids that are going to present something online, the tops and a tip. So use it for peer assessment, where the students are adding, they're saying maybe someone's done a presentation or they've displayed a writing assignment. Like I would definitely use this for writing, and they post it. And the tops are things that the student did well, and a tip could be something that the student could improve. Saving that, downloading that, and the student gets that would be a means of formative assessment for them to revise their writing or to revise their presentation. Okay. Any questions at this point, Mike or Renee? Because then I'm going to let them loose.
I was just going to comment, if I could, Diane, on that last slide you had about the tops and the tips.
Mm-hmm.
This is great because they don't know who has given the feedback. So
Absolutely.
It's kind of nice to be anonymous. You have more authenticity in your discussion. So that is a great one.
That is a great point, Renee. So if I'm from the teacher end looking at the accountability, like I want my kids all the way in, I know if, say, I have 30 in the class, I need to see 30 postings if I'm asking them to post once. So for some things, you might want that. But for the writing, that's a great point, because the more anonymous it is, the more likely that they will offer some constructive feedback, okay? With the constructive playtime, I'd like you, and I will put you in the breakout rooms for this, because I didn't know that we'd be quite this large. So I think we'll work with a partner. There's safety in numbers. I'd like you to go to Padlet.com. I'd like you to develop a Padlet, and I'm giving you the assignment or the exercise. I want you to explore with your Padlet. So really what I want to see is just the bare minimum. And if those of you that are savvy with this might get more onto it, but I'd like you to explore teaching virtually versus teaching traditionally. So you can embed pictures here. You can embed the Padlet notes. And I have here, you can have the bells and whistles, or it can be very straightforward. What we really want, folks, for those of you that have never seen or used Padlet, is to get you to Padlet.com and go ahead. Now, the one thing that I didn't put on here, because I didn't want to raise your level of stress, is that when we put you into the breakouts, I will definitely, because what we found the other day is folks were getting in breakout rooms and the teachers last week were not necessarily dialoguing. So talk it out with your partner or your little team as you go. But what I'd like to do is a couple brave souls to end this will share their screen and share their Padlet with us so we can see what it looks like. Okay? So that will be on a voluntary basis. But right now, is everyone clear on what we're asking you to do? Oops. Sorry, guys. I get trigger happy. So you're going to create a Padlet, going to padlet.com, and try not to, because you'll have plenty of time, I'm sure, to go and look at all these different icons, all the different features. But teaching virtually versus teaching traditionally. Are we okay with that? Okay, wonderful. Since we have, I'm going to break you into 7 rooms. So that puts you in teams of 4. And if you can multitask, pull your Padlet up. Actually, Mike had said, and I did it on Saturday with a class that I was teaching as well, when you get into the breakout room, you can share a screen, like one person at a time. So like Heather from Keystone can be on and she pulls up her screen, but you guys, you can only share one screen at a time, okay? So let's see where you end. It is 11:16. I'd like to give you ample time to do this. So, and then we'll just come back and share on a couple. So I'll give you about 10 minutes at least, okay? So folks, your breakout rooms are gonna be starting shortly. Click on it to join the room and go ahead and experiment.
Hello, breakout room friends.
Hello. Do we have 2 Nickies in here? That's fantastic.
Looks that way. Maybe we could all be honorary Nickies. Make a whole room.
Hey,
So-
Kendall Turner.
Hey, Gilbert.
So go ahead and try to mess around. Let's make a Padlet. I know Diane will definitely spot check people if no one volunteers. So if you need help, just let me know. I'm actually working on one here, so I can share my screen. If you want to be walked through the process, just let me know.
So she wants us to just make, sorry, my kids are here. She wants us to just make one of our own with virtual versus traditional.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. All right. Do we want to do one as a, sorry, do we want to do one as a group or do we want to do individual?
I think her intent is that you try your own, so everybody has a chance to make one.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. I got to get out of hers.
Is that Quinny or Avery?
That's Quinn. Let's see. I don't know if you can. There, she's currently how I keep them quiet while I get to do their learning.
Sure. Do what you gotta do.
That's right. Okay, so. Oh, okay. I'm still on my old one. So wait a minute. Okay. Ugh. All right. Okay, Mike, I cannot go to make a new one. It keeps saying try again, try again.
So you may be
Oh,
in.
never.
It may be because you were working on Diane's and it was in the wrong screen, possibly.
Yeah, I think. Here we go. Make a Padlet.
I'll share my screen here so everyone can see kind of what I made, and then I can help you with yours.
So.
Oh, do we all have to do the same topic?
Yes, the topic was traditional teaching versus virtual teaching. However, knowing Diane, she would want you to make something you can use. So if you have another idea, go ahead and make one you can use with your students.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So icon. So you did your icon, you just made a computer. Is that what you did for the icon, Mike?
I did. Yeah, I just grabbed the laptop emoji.
Okay.
All right there, Gilbert.
Yeah, I'm just, you know me, I'm laughing. I got my title is, well, let me see. So I can share.
Sure. Let me stop mine to make sure yep. So you can share your screen.
Let me see. Yeah.
I like it.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Anybody need any help? Everyone's figuring it out.
I think so.
Working so far.
Mike, can you put your screen back up?
Sure. So I did the shelf layout. That's why I have the individual columns for the different types.
Okay, that was my, okay.
Yeah. So this would be something you could do if you wanted to have students categorize things or even do a sort. So a sort would be really hard to do right now because we're virtual. So we can't really give them like an envelope of categories and slips to move around. But you could have them give them a list of things and then give them the categories across the top using this. So this can be done to a couple different ways.
Okay, how did you do that? I missed a little bit of her presentation in the beginning.
So it's a specific type. So the one Diane showed us was basically kind of like the column view where everything stayed nice and organized. So when you create your Padlet, you'll have a choice of doing it as a back channel or as columns or as kind of
Jennifer
free
missed
form.
that. Yeah, there you have like 6 or 8 different choices, Jen.
Yeah, this one is this is called shelves,
Okay.
which I
My
believe is.
neighbor called me sorry, Mike. My neighbor called me right when we started and I had to walk out to answer his question. So I'm sorry. So instead of doing the wall, like when you first pick the wall view.
Yes, there are different types. So let me see if I can. Now I have a free account, so it may yell at me here when I try to make one, but let's see what happens. Yeah. So let me delete one of these. All right, I think I can delete this one. Okay, now let's see if it lets me make one. So the default is the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And what we would do here, the shelf is the one that allows you to build the categories. So that lets you make columns with labels on. So the students would have to put things in the correct column.
Now you can't, as you start one and then go back and modify it.
I don't think it lets you change the layout, but let's check. So if I go back into my one that is set up with the columns and I look at the settings, does not look like I can change the type. So once you make it, it's going to be locked into that type.
Okay.
Some things I can change, so I can go to like a dark view for the post-its there, and you can change the font later. But it doesn't look like we can do the type later.
Okay. Oh my gosh, how funny that your Elton John actually has Zoom on his
Yeah, I just searched for Zoom and that was one of the ones that came up. So I thought that works. I kind of like the woman in the background kind of singing there too.
Uh-huh. That's funny.
Now, if you make one of the columns, you can add other columns later.
Okay.
So, if you're doing the activity and a student says, "Oh, I think we should have a column for this," then you could add that after it's already been created.
Gotcha.
My guess is Diane was going to call us back from the breakout room here in a minute. When she does that, you'll see something pop up that you can directly go back to the main room.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you miss the button, it takes about 60 seconds to bring everybody back. So I'm going to head back out to the main room now.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye-bye. See you in the big room.
And the current events on the bottom, but
Awesome.
you could do any of this with current events and then people could add as they go.
And Mike, it was funny, the group I just popped out of, they're doing like before coronavirus, after. And I said, how do we do that? And I said, create 2 Padlets. They're 2 different, you start with the Post-it notes. They're doing a nice job with it. No one's being wacky. Okay, I'm going to bring them back.
Yeah.
Mike says, timeline is cool, yay. Mike, I agree. The shelves, like we could do 2 full sessions on creating materials with a lot of the possibilities here. They did a great job. I hopped into 3 of the 4 groups, or I'm sorry, 4 of the 7 groups. Change this. Jen says she wished I'd done that one instead. So folks, as you're filtering back in here, I think we're all here now. Yes. The work is, as you can see, there are a lot of, as I called it, the bells and whistles, but there are a lot of different things that you can implement with the Padlet. So when you kind of like start to simmer with this, especially if it's new for you, like the timeline feature is awesome, the maps feature is awesome, keeping in mind that our only limitation here is that that you can save, or that you can have 3 in your section at a time. Oh, Stacy's sharing. What I'd like to do now to end is, that's what I wanted to do. I don't think in any of our sessions, Mike or Renee, we've had folks the practice of sharing of their screen. So that's what we're doing. Very, very nice. So take a look at this. This is, whose is this? Initially?
Looks
Oh
like
my gosh.
Jessica's.
Yep, Jessica from Keystone Central.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much, Jessica. Who else wants to share? You just have to, did Stace put something in her chat bar, in the chat bar?
Oh, look at this one.
Oh, look at this. Hands down.
Down,
hands
hands
up. That's awesome. Who else wants to share?
We
Keep
can
them
share
coming.
ours, Diane.
Yeah, keep them coming, folks. These are awesome.
Okay, so how do I do that though?
So do you have your, on your laptop, you have what you created, right? Your Padlet?
Yep.
So Stace, go down to share at the bottom on the black bar.
Oh, I see it now. Okay.
And then you should see, and you just click on
Okay.
it and then click share, the little blue tab for share.
Okay.
So I'm not like the control Nazi. So I allowed all of you to share. So that you have that in Zoom, folks. If you remember, you can control. You can be the only one to share, or other folks can share.
Okay.
Get this, Stace?
Well, it wants to share the Zoom. So how do I override that?
Okay. So you want to make sure that your Padlet is up, kind of projected back behind our Zoom.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then you'll see it on the screen when it says to share. It'll be right there for you to click on.
Okay. Let's see here.
Jennifer says this is a little scary with 5th graders. I don't think so. Remember, Jen, we have the profanity thing. You can always filter with the profanity.
That's good, but the share screen is a little scary with 5th graders.
Oh, well, I think if I were doing share screen with 5th graders, I'd have them working in a team of 4 kids, and I would definitely, that they would be producing one. So Stacy, are you seeing it when you go to share screen, Stace? Are you seeing?
I'm still seeing the Zoom. I'm seeing you on my screen. It doesn't give me the option to share. Like I'm clicking desktop.
Okay.
But the share is not in blue.
Yeah,
I'm only
hit the share button at the bottom and it'll say share desktop. When you hit the desktop icon, you actually have to click the icon desktop.
Or you can double click on it as the shortcut, and then you don't have to click the button. If you double click what you want to share, it will instantly come up.
Mm-hmm. So now we're on a mission to share Stacy's before we conclude here.
Yeah, it's not working for me. It's just
watch this, Stace.
It's just showing the Zoom session still. It's not showing what's behind the Zoom session, basically.
So I am going to take, I just.
Oh, there, Greg took over.
Yeah.
Oh, there.
There you go.
Greg to my rescue.
Greg always takes stuff over.
Thanks, Greg.
Awesome. Very, very nice. I was getting ready to do that, and then Greg took control anyway. So Jennifer, we are co-hosting, like Mike, Renee, and I are co-hosts. So yes, you can do that, but down and share on your bottom black tab over to the right, I also enabled multiple participants can share. So folks, I hope that.
Hey, Diane.
Oh, yes.
Sorry to interrupt. And I know we're over the 11:30.
Yeah, that's why I was,
One thing that may be helpful, and they can use their feedback buttons doing a yes or no on this. Do you want to see how to save this because of that 3 Padlet limit? We didn't show them how to save. And I have one saved, and I can show them very quickly if they'd like to see that. So using yes or no, do you want to see? I know we're over. It will take about 2 minutes. Okay. Seeing lots of yeses come in.
I'm saying yeses, Mike.
Okay.
Yep.
So do you want me? You just want me to do that here? Okay. We'll give it a try. Okay, you should now be seeing my screen.
Oh my gosh.
And here's a Padlet that I made. So I have the free account. So I have a three Padlet limit. So the way you get this is then to hit the share button. And down at the bottom, it will say export. And you can see you can do it as an image if you want to edit it later, an image editor. PDF, it will save a CSV or Excel spreadsheet if you just want the text. I always do it as a PDF because I like the formatting of it. And I've already done this, so we don't have to wait through that process, but I would simply, I'll show you, just click here, and then it asks you how you want your paper lined up, what size paper. Here's what it ends up making. So here is the PDF version of my Padlet. So it makes a really nice printed version. And then at that point, I would just come in and take my traditional teaching that now I'm finished with, and I can delete it, and that will free up the space. So that's all there is to it. That's it.
So folks, hopefully, I mean, we went a couple minutes over, but I think it's really important that you start to explore and gain a comfort level. But the groups I jumped into, you guys did an amazing job today. I'm not thinking of Padlet just as we end here as a brainstorming tool, but you can see it has a lot more possibilities, and it's really unlimited. Like Renee was talking about a timeline. So I know I'm chuckling in your spare time, but start with the basics, and that's what we wanted to do today. And thank you so much. Real quick question. Someone asked, how do you create the breakout sessions in Zoom? It is easy peasy. You go down to your black toolbar again at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and I see a little icon, like 4 windows, that says breakout rooms. And Mike, is that only for us as the hosts?
It has to be turned. It has to be turned on. So yes, only a host can start a breakout room, but you want to go to zoom.us and sign in from the web page, and then go to your settings and make sure that breakout rooms are enabled. It isn't always enabled. Just like the feedback buttons, the yes, no, go slower, those may not be there. That's the nonverbal communication. So yeah, check your settings on the website. Don't just assume that the breakout's on. But once it is, you'll find it there under that ellipses menu.
It's so simple on down below, and you just click. I have, say, 30 people. I want 4 rooms, and it goes ahead and randomly. Or you can even, that's a session Mike did. So you might want to check Mike's video archive on. It was the advanced Zoom, wasn't it, Mike?
It was, yes. And you can move students from one room to the other if they aren't working well together. And as you saw, Diane was able to pop into all the rooms, so you can check on the groups.
So thank you so much, folks. We don't want to hold you up anymore. You did a tremendous job today, and I hope we see you tomorrow. Mike, what's on tap tomorrow?
Tomorrow, I'm taking a look at iSearch paper. So a traditional research paper will be pretty hard to do when you don't have the students in front of you. But an iSearch paper is something I think any grade level can do. They write more about the story of their search, which teaches them good research procedures, processes. So check it out tomorrow if you're looking for a way to get kids to use their technology that they have to research something.
Excellent. And thanks so much, folks, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.